So thank you everybody for joining us today on our, the Marketing Optimist Marketing Sandwich course. My name is Richard Mickey. I'm the CEO of the Marketing Optimist. And today we're going to speak to Mark Shayler. Now, I've known Mark for a while now. We've talked before on quite a lot of things. Mark has spoken for me at an event that I used to run called Better Culture. We had a quick chat about that beforehand, so maybe we might touch on that, we might not, I don't know. And Mark's been instrumental in lots of things to do with marketing and lots of other projects as well. Part of the Do Lectures and written a couple of books and done a lot of environmental work. So without further ado, I'll kind of hand you over to Mark. And Mark, if you could kind of give us a little bit of introduction to yourself and what you're up to lately, and then we can kind of start the ball rolling.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Richard. I really appreciate being invited. It's normally me interviewing people. It's very odd being the other way around, actually, but kind of like it. So I'm 52. I'm a dad of 4, a granddad of 1. I have been working in sustainability for trying to work 31 years now. Originally from Leicestershire, where I'm sat at the moment. How you end up back where you grew up, I don't know. Wasn't part of the plans. Went to university in Bradford, did environmental science, 88 to 92, DJ'd, drank, did all the things that come along with that. And the breakthrough year for me was a year in placement, a placement year in London, where I worked for an amazing transport consultancy. And one of the most incredible mentors I've ever met, a guy called John Roberts. He died not long after I worked for him. There was no relation between me working for him and him dying, but he was an amazing boss who thought really differently. A hippie, essentially a hippie architect, who showed me that running your own business and marketing and selling that business could be done really gently in a world that was noisy. Sometimes the thing that attracts the attention are the little pockets of quiet. And that was an incredible time for me. So I did that for a year, then went back to go back to university to finish my degree, got married at university, kind of did all the things I shouldn't do really. And then I worked in Bradford for a long time as a sustainability advisor for the council, but not advising the council, advising businesses. And if I'm honest, Richard, that was an incredible, it was like 6 years where I was learning everything, learning so much. I was spending my time up to my elbows in wool scouring chemicals, working in fat rendering. These are great selling points, aren't they? Working in printing and packaging, redesigning stuff. And we ended up creating the Bradford Business Environment Forum, which kind of grew and grew and became the biggest green business club in the country. And it's got no business being in Bradford. Like it shouldn't have been there really. Completely dwarfed Leeds, the Green Business Forum. And we did that for a while. And then I was head of sustainability for Asda. So I worked in Leeds for a little bit, lived in Saltaire, which I still dear to my heart. And then we're going to emigrate, but for one reason or another we didn't. And by that time we'd sold our house, given up my job. It was a bit scary having no job, no house, 3 kids. And so we came back to the Midlands, where we had family support. You kind of work out where home is. And 20 years later, I'm still here. I ran an eco design agency for 10 years called Eco3, sold that to my business partner. He's running that still very well down the road. And I've been running my company Ape for the last 11 years now, and we help big companies think small, small companies think big. 50% of my work is sustainability and 50% is out and out innovation. Of that 50% that's out and out innovation, I would say half of it is still got a good element to it, so socially responsible in some way. And the other half is I'm slowly chipping away at large organizations who are headed in a direction that is completely unsustainable. And there's some compromises there, Richard, and that's really, really hard. But I had this epiphany in a car park in Margate on a camper van holiday a few years ago, probably 6 years ago. I was pissing it down with rain. We were camper vanning. We were camping just down the coast at a place called Beadnell Bay. No, that's not true. That's up in the Northumberland. At a place called Westgate Bay, and we couldn't. It was so wet we couldn't camp. so we went and took an Airbnb in Margate. It's about 7 years ago, and I had no money. We were absolutely, and no work, no money. And we went to the cinema, but I could only afford 5 tickets, and there's 6 of us. So I sat in this camper van in the rain, waiting for the film to finish, just thinking, something's gone wrong, and I don't know what it is. And then I listed all the clients that I wanted to work for, and they were all your usuals, you know, your Finistairs, your Patagonias. They were really great clients. And I thought, the thing is, they don't need me. Like, they don't need me.
Sim, mas agora que é fácil para ver isso, é melhor ver já e dizer, olha, depois de ter feito a amostra do casaco, confirmamos o preço, não é?
Whoever's not speaking, can you mute yourself, please?
Brilliant.
A Zoom call is not a Zoom call without that happening, is it?
Do you want me to tell you who it is?
I don't know who it is.
That's so funny.
E o customer só está estampado aí.
Okay, well, there's a few. There's Paulo Raphael.
Hey, Paulo, could you mute yourself, please? I can't see you on the screen now. Hang on. Oh, where is he?
Difícil, não tem problema.
Hey, Paulo.
16 o casaco e 36.
I can't see Paulo.
He's you can search it.
Mando já mail para dizer isso. Eu faço.
What language is that?
It's German, I think.
É normal quando se faz as amostras tem que se confirmar e.
If this is scripted, guys, and this is part of the webinar, this is brilliant.
Brilliant. I wish it was. I really wish it
was. Someone with control can mute him.
I don't think Richard can find him.
I've got him. Right.
Hey.
Carry on, Mark. Sorry about that.
I mean, he's probably lovely. No, Paolo's probably lovely. He probably just doesn't realise. He'll play this back later and be utterly ashamed. Anyway, at that moment, I realised I was trying to sell the thing that nobody wanted to people that didn't want it. And I needed to change it and sell it to people that did. Yeah. And that was a massive shift. And 2 other things happened at the same time, actually, Rich. It was a really interesting period. I had 2 close business associates, different kind of side projects, and within 1 week, in fact, a day apart, they both dropped me. And one of them did it really well. He called me, rang me, we met for breakfast. Don't want to work with you anymore. Really like you, but I want to go in a different direction. And the other one just ignored all my emails for 3 years. So that happened like in. There you go. I'm back. Don't know how I got muted then. So that happened in 2 days. When 2 people who you really value just go, yeah, I'm going this way. Well, in fact, one of them said I'm going this way, and the other one just didn't return calls. So those things all happened at once, and that changed the way I. Do you know what it did? It changed the way I thought about myself, because if you don't love yourself, if you don't value what you do, nobody else will value what you do. And that was a really difficult period, but unbelievably positive looking back on it. We had this conversation just before we came on air, Richard, didn't we? At the moment, it looks like it could be desperate, but actually in reality, it's the way, it's when things change. And I'm still not talking to one, and he still doesn't answer my calls. And the other one is really good friends. And that's the way you should end these things, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had a quick chat before we started. So I've known Mark before, and my previous job before I started the marketing, I worked in renewable energy, and Mark contacted me, and we put in a nice biomass boiler for Mark. Unfortunately, the MD of that company wasn't the best, so I'm quite glad that I left. I was made redundant in the end, but actually it was the best thing that ever happened to me. You come home after being made redundant. My wife had just changed her job, so she's a teacher. She just decided to go doing supply teaching. So it was all like, oh well, we'll do that, but we'll be fine. It's okay. And then suddenly I come home and I've lost my job. And so she's all in it is. We just got a new baby at the time as well. Everything's all up in the air, and it was a real struggle. But actually, in hindsight, best thing that ever happened to me. But at the time when it happens, it never ever feels like that. So yeah, it's I don't know if I quite had an epiphany. I don't think I quite got to the point where I couldn't afford cinema tickets for the whole family. But yeah, it's absolutely those things are kind of come to test you, but in hindsight do really, really well. One of the things that you mentioned today was about that half of your business is innovation. Now Now, innovation is something that's obviously really exciting, but obviously it's really broad. So how do you kind of define the innovation? Because it takes on everything. It's such an all-encompassing term. And I know recently I had a client who wanted to change from being just a marketing agency to being an innovation marketing agency. And it's almost like, okay, so what the hell's that? So how would you define how that can work? Because it's a really interesting subject.
Well, it is. And, you know, I never thought I did innovation. I was always told at school that I wasn't, when I was a kid, I wasn't the creative one. That was my brother. My brother was the one that could draw, and he's brilliant. And he runs my dad's video business now. He runs his own video business now. But I was the non-creative one. I was the sciencey rugby playing one. And you know, those words weren't said with any harm at all, or with any intended harm, but they stick, and you think you're not creative. So going into sustainability, where you're measuring stuff and you're beginning to kind of add your science to it, that seemed right. And then I found that I'd be sat in a room and I'd be coming up with better ideas than the creative agency that had been brought in. And nothing wrong with creative agencies, they're amazing, but I was as good as, that's a better way of saying it. And so I realized that actually all innovation is imagining a world that hasn't arrived yet. And I could do that. I could imagine a world that hasn't arrived yet. What I couldn't do was draw a world. I can't draw, I'm rubbish at it. Mainly because I stopped drawing when I was 6, right? But so you've got this whole kind of like realization that actually what I was doing with sustainability was changing hearts and minds. What I was doing was persuading people to do something in a really different way, in a way that felt unnatural to them, but that aligned with the consumer's desire for better. That's innovation, doing something differently that is unnatural for someone, that aligns with a different view of the world. Imagine in a world that isn't here yet. Now, what you've said there is really interesting, Richard. So I try not to then categorize it further than that, because number one, I can't. I just can't. And I'm right now, in terms of innovation, I'm helping one company develop new drinks. I'm helping one company develop a marketing approach for the youth. I'm working with another company on developing tools and techniques to change the way we design bars. And that's just like this week. That's a whole stretch. So I try not to go any lower than that, and try and instead to think about how I can help companies reframe their problems so that they can see, and this is such a cliche, they can see an opportunity there, and get them to think about the ideas that they've already dismissed. I get them to think of crazy, ridiculous, stupid ideas. And I use that as the kind of seed for growing something that will land in market. So I try not to pull it apart any more than that. There are many types of innovation, and if you speak to different agencies, they will, you know, we specialize in, I don't know, digital innovation or user design experience. I do them all, and I make it up as I go along. But I've done all right so far, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. I can afford cinema tickets now. We're all good.
That's good. That's good. So just talking about innovation. Obviously, at the moment with COVID, which is, we can't get away from it with COVID, and there's been so much kind of fast moving things. So if you think about the fact that probably like a year ago, we probably wouldn't even thought about having this kind of Zoom meeting in this kind of way. And now they're happening everywhere. And even actually the progression from 5 years ago, where had this happened 5 years ago, the whole world would have pretty much stopped spinning, because there just wasn't the infrastructure to do what we're all doing now. We're all doing heavy Zoom calls, loads of remote working, that just, the infrastructure just wasn't there. So within the past year, because we're nearly up to a year now, what have you seen that's been the kind of push behind innovation?
Great question. And you're right. You know, I'd say even 2 years ago, we wouldn't have sat here doing this. I think we thought the technology was the barrier, and actually it was us. It was our attitudes towards working differently, and that in itself is a form of innovation. It's a small creeping form of innovation. But what I see now, you know, I've got a couple of really big clients who didn't have the massive retailers, and you couldn't buy direct from them, and so they've clearly the rush into digital product development has been astonishing. And I'm guilty, you know, you can buy most of my courses, well, soon you'll be able to buy all of my courses online, the click of a button. I don't just mean order me to come and do one live.
Yeah.
I mean, they're recorded and you will be able to beam them to your house or to your bedroom. So the innovation in digital has gone absolutely crazy. But the thing that's really interested me the most is the change in use of areas that you can't go to, shops that you can't go to. And we've seen this innovation. So to give you two examples of this, a really good friend of mine, a guy called Charlie Gladstone, probably my best friend. He had a pub in Harden, up near Wrexham, Wrexham, and he Chesterish, but over the border. He had to close his pub, clearly, so he opened it up as a farm shop, so people could still come in and chat and do stuff. Another good example there, a friend of mine in East London has got a pub called Top Cuvee, and overnight it became Shop Cuvee. They just pivoted and went, okay, so people can't come in, but they can order online. So they're going to do like £15 ready meals and £30 bottles of wine. There's a whole market that wasn't being served. In the words premium are tricky, right? And they're a bit elitist, but in sort of premium, ready to order food, sits between super expensive and good. And Shop Cuvee is just absolutely boom. So there's been this innovation in giving people glimmers of joy at home. And you know, there's 8 of us in our house. We're all locked in together, and we're lucky because we've got enough space. But one of the treats that we have now is to go to the drive-through coffee store. My son-in-law's a barista. We make great coffee here. It's not the quality of the coffee. It's the fact that experience of going out and doing something different, that's become a little source of joy for people. I don't go, to be honest, but they do, and they kind of look forward to it. I look forward to going to the co-op. That's what I look forward to, because I miss people. I really miss people, and I can go to the co-op and I can have a chat with the people that work there, and I can come back and I'll feel a little more whole. I feel like that there's some kind of transaction that's made my life a little bit better. And so we've seen innovation at the same time. We've seen innovation in social networking. We've seen some phenomenal innovations in social networking, and whether you like it or not, Clubhouse is really interesting. Not perfect, but really interesting. So we've seen innovation there. So it's hard to say. I think everyone's taken this year and had a really hard look at what they do.
I'm listening to that. I can hear if you speak closer.
Just a second there.
I think that was Mike.
No worries. We'll.
Yeah, it's Mike Jenkins. That was his little box went yellow. So we've seen these innovations in ways that make our lives better over this last year. So at-home coffee, at-home cosmetics, all of that sort of stuff. It's fascinating. But let's not forget, this is about to change. We're about to all be let free-ish, right? A little bit sliding scale. Where do we need to be next? It's going to be in these incredible experiences that bring people together. And I had a taste of this, actually. So I bought my brother was 50 during lockdown, and he's a couple of years younger than me, and I bought him family tickets to go and see the Gorillas live, broadcast live, and they'd all been locked down for 2 weeks. So you got these kind of like Slow Tide been locked down, and all of the kind of singers, and it was just, I think Robert Smith even. Imagine being locked down with Robert Smith for 2 weeks.
I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know.
I would love that. Incredible. With Slow Tie, one of them like all fighty and the other one all gothy. That's brilliant. And so I bought that experience for my brother, and it was a real highlight actually of lockdown, being able to there was the level of innovation that had taken place to get everything to sync and everyone to be able to join in. And me and my brother could talk. That was fascinating. And then the other area that's innovation, we've seen a massive shift of innovation, is home exercise. And I'm going to sound like a convert and an idiot here, but my God, Peloton has saved my life over this last 12 months. And I mean, it saved my marriage probably. Peloton has been a godsend, because it isn't just about the bike. People think it's about the bike and that is expensive. It's not about that. It's about the people who lead the classes.
Right.
It's about being able to connect at a really human level with someone who's speaking to maybe 15,000 others all at once, or more than that. So that's where I see innovation happening, and I can't see the latter two changing. I think we're going to see more and more digital experience innovations, and I think we're going to see more and more. I think it's not about the platform's essential, but once you've got the platform, it's about the quality. It's about the quality of the people that run the classes in those kind of home exercise stuff. And I do a yoga thing, a guy called David Cam. It's about 30 people that do it on a Sunday morning. It's amazing, but it's not. It's him. It's him that's amazing. I think what's happened is we've lifted great talent and given it a spotlight that maybe it wouldn't have had before. That's where I see those innovations.
Interesting, because it is. I mean, we've seen companies. So some have come to us who are traditional. I know we've got one client who we helped, who is like an angel investment company. So they are used to getting businesses in to pitch at the front and having a room full of angel investors who then kind of ask questions and stuff. And they were really old school. They knew exactly how to do the face-to-face pitching stuff. They knew exactly how to run all that. But then when it came to, oh, hang on, we really can't do it that way anymore. So we spent time with them, helping them to switch to the online version. And we helped other clients as well switch from basically class-based learning into who's that? Class-based learning. Yeah, from class-based learning into the digital realm, and it's helped a lot of people flex and change. And I think this innovation in that sense has come because it's been forced. You've had no choice, and that's got to be a good acceleration. And other things I can think of at the minute are kind of the impact on the high street, where we're seeing internet retailers buying Debenhams. Debenhams, this monolith that's been there forever, which I always hated going shopping Debenhams. To me, it added no value whatsoever. It was just almost like a random market, really, without the colour or the interest of a random market. And now the internet giants have had them for lunch, because there's no difference. What's the difference between ordering online and going into Debenhams? Well, Debenhams is just depressing.
Yeah.
When you go online, you go in, you get what you want, and you're off, and it's done. And it's the convenience, and it gets delivered to home, which is perfect. I think when retail will return, but it needs to innovate, and there needs to be a reason to go to your retail store now. It's not just because I need a pair of socks, because I don't need to take a trip into a town centre to buy a pair of socks. I just don't. I order them on Amazon. They arrive the next day. They're perfect, and it's done. So retail has to add value, and that's one of the takeaways for me from this whole lockdown, is that traditional models who were going, oh yeah, well, we need to innovate, but not today, not today, not today, not today, and then suddenly, oh shit, it's too late now because somebody just had our lunch.
I agree, and that, you know, it's not escaped anyone's notice that the clicks have bought the bricks. That is not what we expected to be happening right now. It makes perfect sense, because you're right. You know, shopping online can be depressing. Shopping in Debenhams can be depressing. But one of them takes up less of your time.
Yeah,
one of them takes less of your time, and it's kind of more convenient. And I think it'll be really interesting. It's funny. I was just chatting to someone this morning, and she was saying, I really want to get in touch with, you know, the big high street retailers like ASOS. And I just thought, no one would have ever classed them as a high street retailer. How did this happen? And yet, I find it really exciting. I'm not saying ASOS's ethics are where they should be. This is not a circularity or a ethical conversation. This is oh my God, everything's changing. The retail landscape is wide open, like so exciting. To be able to play and do something with food in retail right now would be brilliant. That is something that I'm super interested in. And when Andrew's on, actually, he's done stuff like that before. So I think there's a real opportunity to bring small nuggets of joy to people's lives, and that will in turn bring people back to the high street. But it is never going to be what it was before. That's really interesting.
Well, we just had an interesting question coming from Callum. He says, do you think the novelty of shopping in person again on the high street after the lockdown ends will impact on the use of internet purchasing? Or do you think the high street can't recover from this? Good question, Callum.
Callum's a bright chap. I know Callum's dad really well. He taught me to swim. Not taught me to swim. I could already swim, but he taught me to swim like a swimmer, not a boxer. And Callum's got a canny brain. So Callum, it's a great question. People, place, and purpose. They're the really important things. And when you can align all three, everything works. And when you can get the right people in the right place for the right reason, then magic happens. Now, the high street has lost a whole lot of purpose. It's lost a whole lot of magic. Hasn't been a pleasurable experience forever. I can't remember the last time I enjoyed going shopping. It's probably in Leeds in around about just after Daisy was born, 1996, right? Probably that was the last time I actually enjoyed shopping. Oh no, I did have a drunken escapade in Dublin between then and now. But you have to have people, place, and purpose, and we've lost all of them from the high street. So Callum, if we can bring some purpose back, if we can create some magic spaces, you know when you walk in somewhere beautiful, and it's a cliche, but you walk into the Rafa store in Soho, and it feels really nice. In fact, when I tell you who do this really well, H&M play some really interesting experiments out. So they're very brave. And when they opened Arquette, suddenly you had this store that felt, you didn't know where you were. Am I in a home store? Am I in like a really good version of Gap? What am I? But there was enough curiosity and intrigue to want to keep me there. So being able to create magic in store. I tell Phoenix do this really well. They have been one of my clients in the past. And you go into the store and it's a real experience. There just aren't enough people going into the store. Fundamentally, department stores are utterly compromised because a shopping mall is a department store. You've got much more choice, much lower price, and you can eat where you want to eat, kind of thing. So I think if we can create people, place, and purpose, and if we can stop the noise, like in a noisy world, when Sports Direct takes up a double bloody shop on the high street and you can't see through the windows for all the shouting, the thing that gets heard is the quiet voice. And if we could all stop shouting and be really clear about what it is that we offer and how you make people's lives better. Muji do this very, very well, actually. How you can make people's lives better, then I think people will come in out of intrigue. Then there'll be some enjoyment return. But at the moment, it's like going shopping in the high street. Okay, pre-COVID, going shopping in the high street was like being bombarded with a million messages all at once, most of which were telling me that they were cheaper than anybody else rather than better or more healthy or more tasty. And I'm done with that. I'm done with that.
Lovely. Well, I think what we'll do is we've got a few more questions coming in. So I'm going to nip to Charles's question. So Charles messages this on LinkedIn and he said, we're all given lots of advice. Most of it should be ignored as it's too generic. What's the best piece of advice that Mark has given but ignored? So that's an interesting question. Thanks, Charles.
So that's Mark has been given and Mark has ignored. Right. Yeah. So, okay. Well, that is really clear. Buy Tesla shares. That was the best piece of advice I've been given. Buy Tesla shares and buy some Ethereum and give your son 400 quid to play around on digital currency, right? And I didn't do those things. But other than that, which is not to, and yeah, to buy that house in Clerkenwell, that was a bit of advice I should have taken as well. But other than that, I was advised to go on my own earlier as a business, and I was scared. Yeah. I was fundamentally shitting myself and worried about doing it. So when I joined Asda, which was an experience that I'm very pleased I endured, but it was endurance. It wasn't it was not my natural breeding ground. Okay. Yeah. But I'm really glad I did it. Before I joined Asda, I was given some advice to set up on my own. I had enough work and this was early. This would have been 1999 and 1999. And the whole sustainability world hadn't bloomed and hadn't grown, and I would have, it would have been a different thing. So that's the best bit of advice I was given that I ignored, I think. But it's not the one that I lose sleep over. The one that I lose sleep over is the Tesla shares.
I bet. Yeah.
No, it's the house in Clerkenwell. Of course it is. That's about 3 million quid now. But there you go.
We had a question coming from Lucy. what would your top tips for sustainability be for a small business? Now, I often think about this because we're a relatively small business, and we all work from home. The only thing we have is laptops and phones and stuff. So being sustainable for us is, I mean, I want to be as sustainable as possible. I think everybody should be, but it's tricky. Where do you start? So what would be the top tips for sustainability for a small business be?
Yeah, it's a great question. Really great. Was that Lucy? Yeah, great question, Lucy. Thank you. So I'm going to split this into two areas, right? Number one, the way you do things, your impact. And, you know, we haven't gone paperless, but we're all mindful of the resources that we use, the waste that we produce, the energy that we use, and, you know, having a really clear understanding of what that impact is and putting a figure to it, a carbon figure. Carbon's an interesting metric. It can often hide complexity, but we'll come back to that in a minute. So having an idea of your footprint and aiming to reduce that, but pegging that to growth. So per £1,000 of turnover. So if you double and your footprint goes up by 50%, then you've done well, right? So having some kind of metric there. But that's not the biggest issue, right? The biggest issue is not what you spend. We're tiny as small businesses. The biggest issue is the advice that we give. So roll your responsibility forwards, roll your responsibility into the kind of people you work with. And I've had that conversation that I sometimes don't work with people that you would align with good, okay? But what people don't see in that work is all of the good I'm doing that I'm not allowed to talk about. They just see a new flavor of drink, and they don't see the fact that I've done a whole load of other stuff because they're a bit scared of telling anyone. But look at what you're doing with your clients. If I advise Unilever to do one thing that reduces impact by, I don't know, 10 grams of carbon per customer, that is so much more important than me moving towards a renewable energy tariff. I'm already on that, but you know what I mean. Understand that the biggest impact the small businesses that we have is not our own impact, it's the advice that we funnel out to other people. And I would also say, don't, and we'll come on to this in a minute when I want to talk about marketing revolutions, but don't lie. So I've got a very good friend who runs a very small boutique agency, a consultancy, and he bought recently a Tesla Model 3 Performance, right? Nice car, lovely. And he said, yeah, it's part of our commitment towards sustainability. No, it isn't. No, it's not. That's absolute bollocks. It's not part of your commitment towards sustainability. What it is an amazing car with an incredible tax benefit right now, and you got it on a good deal, right? That's what that is. So just be honest. People can see everything now. So Lucy, look after the stuff that you can look after. Think about the impact that you have with the clients that you're working with. Change the brief. So that's one of the key challenges with small businesses, is that we don't think we're big enough or strong enough to push back on the client and go, do you really, so this is a really good example actually, do you really want to sell more, do you really want to sell 20% more deodorant? Is that really what you want to do? The answer is no. They want to make 20% more profit on the deodorant that they sell. That's a significantly better question. So go back to that, because that brief, that's a real brief that came out to a real design agency. And what the design agency did to sell 20% more deodorant for a very large deodorant brand is they made the hole that the aerosol comes out of 20% bigger. Yeah. And the truth is, less than 15% of the aerosol that comes out at the end of our actually goes on our body. You know the system. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 for look, right? 85% of that is wasted. We're breathing it in. Yeah. So you make the hole bigger, you waste more. Here's the answer. Here's what you do with that. You make the hole smaller and you give it a little directional molding. And then you put on the pack, we have optimized aerosol nozzle delivery, or some wanky words, right? It doesn't matter, because this wastes less and makes you smell greater. And we go smell greater, more attractive to whoever we want to be attractive to. And therefore there's 20% less in the pack, but we're going to charge you the same amount. Boom, everyone wins. Less resource use, greater profitability. Ask a better question.
And that's a great example of how marketing, I want to say spun in the right way does a lot of good. You're not lying. You're adding an amazing amount of value and giving a huge benefit to the end client. That's what it all comes to, and benefiting the planet all at the same time. and giving that example, a clear mark of differentiation, So that, yeah, that's fantastic. A few more technical questions about sustainability. So I don't think we've got enough. There's not enough years to maybe cover those off. Imi has asked about disruption and innovation in social media and digital channels. Like you, I'm on Clubhouse, and I've tried to listen in, but so far it's been a lot of American noise. I'm sorry, apologies for any Americans who've been on it, but it can get just.
I can see one American, and she's one of the nicest people I've ever met. Lou Kralchev, stand up.
Apologies, Lou. But when I've been on, it's really noisy, and it's just like, whoa, what's going on here? So I like it, and I'm going to dip back in, and I think Marcus Natsis will do something on it. I think it needs, like you said, I don't think it's perfect. It needs some curation. But yeah, those kind of movements, what are you seeing is actually interesting, and not so much copycat and just, oh, somebody else has done that, like Facebook, and we know are great at kind of seeing somebody else do something and then just bolt it onto their products. Is there anything you're seeing that's you feel is truly innovative at the moment?
It's a brilliant question, and there is nothing truly innovative. I mean, you know, Clubhouse, it's not like Clubhouse is exactly where marketing was in the 90s, shouting everywhere, and it was not long ago. Too much noise, you know. Hey, yeah, you should join our room because I turned a 7-digit profit in 3 months, and I can do that for you. No, cough, not interested. What I'm really interested in is really good quality conversations, less noise, more meaning. And you're not getting that on Clubhouse at the moment, but you will, right? But that's down to the curation of the room. I was on a room the other day. It was Ace, Jamie Cato, and me, and about 6 people, and it was really lovely and deep conversation. So anyone that can generate that level of conversation matters. The interesting space that I see right now, and you're going to all laugh at me, right? You're going to all go, "Yeah, you're an idiot." It's LinkedIn, right? It's so boring, and it used to be so full of po-faced buggers that would write things like, you appear to have clicked the LinkedIn button rather than Facebook for your post. That kind of comment was like deeply unhelpful. Yeah. Luckily, and dear as those people are, luckily they've aged out and they're not in business anymore. And it's left a gap. And LinkedIn is the single biggest blogging platform on the planet. And that allows us to have more thoughtful, longer form conversations and discussions. And I would never have said this 2 years ago. I'd have just said it was somewhere to go for ego shouts. And that's changed massively. And I don't think it's intentional. It might be. I should ask them. I don't think it's intentional. I think it's about the maturation of the technology and the way that we've chosen to use it. I think that's the magic. And the other place I've gone back to recently, and I'd stopped using Twitter because it was all about Instagram. But Twitter's really interesting right now. Twitter is a really fascinating place to have conversations. You still get people shouting in from the side. That's the nature of retweets and sharing. But that's become a place that I've begun to value a little bit more. There's nothing new, or I've not seen anything. Well, there's Beams. Beams is a potential exciting new one, but I know very little about it. But I think that's probably one that's worth watching, actually, as well as Clubhouse. Look at Beams too. And then I started all of this stuff. I started using Pinterest years ago, and I found it really useful. Then I stopped using it, and I started using it again last year. I was looking at a project on, it was for an American client. It was on THC. So the psychoactive element of the cannabis plant is legal in many, many states. It's not bizarre. It's not legal federally. It's just legal at state level. So I started to kind of do some research into that, and I just went onto Pinterest and put a few pins in around THC, and then went to bed, and then woke up in the morning, and it's like, you have 30 new suggested pins for THC. It's like, oh, that's interesting. This is doing my research for me. Whatever algorithm is doing my research for me. So I'm not seeing anything new, but I'm having a new approach to things that I dismissed and moved away from. Except for Facebook, which I absolutely, utterly a bore and try not to go there unless one of my mates talks to me, and then my mates all talk through Facebook. So you've got to go.
I think you're right. So the socials, obviously we use Pinterest quite heavily for some of our clients, particularly kind of interiors clients that we have, and it works really well because people obviously do that shopping, or looking for a new carpet, I'm looking for a new unit, and whatever, I can find it on there. And I think the channels are starting to, they're actually more than just straightforward posts. The channels are now starting to get a bit more curation to them and bringing people together. And I agree, LinkedIn is somewhere that I pretty much live all day, every day, because it's perfect for lead generation for us. We're a marketing agency, B2B. It works perfectly for that point of view, but also it works perfectly for finding interesting content, finding interesting people, and developing new ideas.
It's fascinating. Twitter's where I go for research often. LinkedIn's where I go to find interesting people. And the power of LinkedIn is not your connections, it's your connections.
Yeah.
And as soon as you put something on and they like it, it goes into their feed. So it's got this great magnifying. And these words, I can't actually believe I'm praising LinkedIn, because for years I just slated the blue monster. Yeah. But now I actually think it's got some value if we use it well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rachel Andrews has asked, what would you recommend to stand out for environmental sustainability marketing whilst, and this is important, whilst avoiding greenwashing?
In terms of is that a company you're looking for, Rachel? A good example or an approach?
I think she's looking for an approach. What would you recommend to stand out for a company?
So look, I think this is probably a good time to talk about the marketing revolutions that we've seen over the last 50 years. There's so much greenwash, and it's beyond greenwash now. We've gone into green cocking, which my friend Claire, that's just brilliant. Claire Potter came up with. It's this idea of peacocking and greenwashing at the same time. Okay. And that's where we are, right? And the kind of the technology that we use, the approach to sustainability, to fraction it all out, means that we can say how great our product is over here. It's horrific over here, but we're only looking at, we're green cocking this bit, and we're ignoring this bit. So we're in a really interesting time, and everyone cares now. Like, doing good is the new cool, and that's a good thing. Okay, but these three marketing revolutions that we've seen, and there's a book called Marketing Rebellion by a man called Mark Shayler, not me, Mark Shayler, and it's really good. It talks about the end of lying, the fact that we don't lie in marketing anymore. I'm going to come back to that because I think we probably still do. But that whole, more doctors smoke Capstan full strength cigarettes than any other cigarette brand, and they're very soothing for the lung. No, that's not true, and that was a lie, right? Then we've moved away from the end of hiding. You need vitamin donuts to put a pep in your stride. So that was a real advert. That's an American advert, actually. That's not helping, right? We're hiding the harm with good, and we're going to come back to that in a minute as well. And then we're now at a point where we're at the third marketing revolution, which is the end of control. So you are not what you say you are what people say you are. 60% of our marketing spend is out of our brand awareness is completely outside of our control. We decide what we think about somebody because of what our network has said, because of our social media platforms, our networks. It might be that, you might be QAnon and you might be led that way and therefore hate Microsoft, or you might be Antifa and go that way and then hate anything that is vaguely corporate, right? So, but we're strayed and swayed by what people say about a brand more than what they say about themselves. And that's really interesting, and has kind of democratized many things and put the power into our hands. It's still open to abuse and marketing in another way. And both of those organizations, one more than the other, have a huge amount of issues to deal with there. But the fourth marketing revolution, this isn't in his book because I invented it during Qigong this morning, is the end of fabrication. This whole idea of creating a brand story based around a grain of truth, a tiny element of truth, and then turning that into a message that people very happy to take away for you and tell you how great you are and how your amazing clothes that you make are brilliant, or your shoes are perfect. But all you've done is you've taken one element of that and you've really amped it up. And I'll be honest, I do not need my underpants to have a story. I really, they have their own stories, right? And they're nightmares, right? You don't need to have a story for everything that you buy. And I think we're at the end of fabrication, or I think we're at the end of story. Now, that doesn't mean we can't use story and we can't use imagery and we can't use myth and legend to make things more communicable. It just means that there has to be some truth. So when we pull all those things together, and this is why I think it's important, the end of lying. No, people are still lying. People are still lying, and we just call it greenwashing. Okay. The end of hiding, green cocking, right? That's where we are there. The end of control. We can see everything now. I can Google anything and I can find it out. I can get to the truth one way or another. And all of that is pushing us towards this fourth marketing revolution, which is the end of fabrication. And the rise of the story was the savior of marketing. I think it could actually be its demise as well.
That's really interesting, because yeah, story is something as marketers we talk about a lot. And yeah, everything kind of needs a story and a background, but you're right, pants don't need a story. They really don't. In fact, I'm thinking of when I push this video up onto YouTube, that could well be the title. My underpants do not need a story. That's brilliant.
It's true. It's very, very true.
Okay, so we got a question in come from Catherine Wheatman. So Mark, how do you balance requests to do webinars and other stuff for free, but it helps spread the word, and looking for revenue earning stuff? Are you finding it's now more difficult to get paid for content presence now everything is online and free or low cost? That's a very interesting question, because when we've done courses and things, there's so many people doing things for free out there, and the volume's ramped up because it's talking about the innovation. The barrier to doing an event now has dropped. It's gone completely. All you need is a Zoom license, just like we've got, and you can put on a free event, which there's so much to choose from. So the good quality stuff is harder to find now. So how do you balance that, Mark?
It's a great question, and it's a battle I thought I'd already won. So Catherine, you like me work in circular economy and sustainability, and back in the day when I first started my businesses, I'd speak anywhere for free because I was getting the message out and people were seeing me. And then you find that you're actually the headline of the thing that they're running, and everyone else is being paid, or is being paid by a business, i.e. they're being paid by GlaxoSmithKline or whoever to be there, and you're not. So I end up starting to charge and put my prices up, and then you end up charging enough so that you don't get the crap gigs, but you only get the good gigs, and that's great. And then COVID happened, and then everything became free. Literally everything became free. And I run a free event on a Monday morning every week. Monday communion, inspirational speaker, often. Charles Ross is on next week, actually, so definitely inspirational speaker. And it's a chat, it's a community. It isn't about what Charles is going to say. And I'm not interested in what people are doing. I'm interested in what made them do what they're doing. So I get this all the time, Catherine. I get, well, can you do an event? Yeah, I can do an event. We don't have a budget. Oh, do you not have a budget? No, we don't have a budget. Okay. Who's paying for the Zoom room? Oh, we've got a budget for that. Okay. Are you being paid? Oh yeah, I'm being paid. Yeah. Okay. What about the marketing team that put the social media campaign together? They doing it for free as well? No. So you actually just want the talent to do it for free? That's what you're saying? Is that right? And I'm being cynical and a little bit facetious, but I do have those conversations. The way I look at it, Catherine, is this: am I doing anything else? What is my opportunity cost? Could I write a blog in that same half an hour that would get me real interaction and a potential client? Or am I best off to do this and to have something that I can spend my time doing and might give me some thought provocation and might make me think a little bit differently? I don't need any more exposure, right? That was the interesting call I had with one company. They said, we want you to do this event. We can't pay you, but you'll get great exposure. So I was on Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall's War on Waste last night. I don't need any more bloody exposure. That's enough exposure for this week. I'm exposured up. But look, we all rushed to help. We all rushed at the beginning. Everyone rushed to create some kind of community, because the thing that we missed most, and the thing that I missed most, is human connection. This is amazing. I can see your faces. You're all beautiful. And I really want this connection to fulfill my life. And so I just said yes to everything for free, because it made life better for me. I was getting something out of it. I love the fact some of you have now turned your cameras on. You all look beautiful, all of you. So I say yes to most things, Catherine. However, we've done all right. We've had a couple of really good years. I don't need to panic about money right now. If I did, poverty is romanticized only by fools. If I did need to panic about money, I would say just, you know, £30, £20, whatever. I did a Qigong session for an hour and a half the other day. I'm a consultant, right? But I do Qigong and moving around in my spare time every morning at 8 o'clock on Instagram. And someone said, we can pay you. And I'm thinking, brilliant, my first paying Qigong gig. What's this going to be? She says, yeah, we can do £40 for the hour. And I thought, okay, that's all right. Like, I'm not going to knock 40 quid for an hour, but what I can charge for innovation is significantly higher than £40. But I still did it, Catherine, because it felt like I was making something better for somebody. And as long as somebody includes me, then I'll do it for free or for cheap. And if the message matters, so if what we do, Catherine, is really, what everyone does is really important, but there's an urgency to sustainability like we've never seen. And there's a need to balance the desire to do good and to focus on the wrong thing with science. And that's one of the things that, you know, I'm really sad about the plastic in the ocean. Genuinely I am, but it's the third biggest challenge to the oceans after climate change, then after overfishing, then it's ocean debris, and within ocean debris there's plastic, and it really matters. It shouldn't be there at all, but if you really give a shit about fish, stop eating them. Like, fundamentally look at the biggest challenges, and if we shift away from plastic into glass bottles, our climate impact goes up, and we need to be very careful about how we do that. The closed loop thinking needs to come into effect there. So think about the urgency of the stuff that needs doing. Think about the audience it could reach. Think about whether you like the person. I like Richard. I'd never charge Richard for anything. He's a really lovely man. Of course, I'll sit here and do this all the time. And then decide and go into it with a good heart. That's the thing, Catherine. If you say yes to doing it for free, but you're really pissed about it, then you're going to do a crap job. Everyone's going to know you've done a crap job. You're going to leave holding anger in your hand. And the only person who gets harmed by holding anger in their hand is the person that's holding anger in their hand. No one else knows. So make a clear decision, go for it, don't look back. And you never know. I've done free stuff before, and 3 years later someone's rang me and said, that was amazing. I really enjoyed that. You did that 3 years ago. Can you come and do I don't know, a trends forecast piece for us, or can you come and do some consumer research for us? So you never know what's going to come, but you can't give your time away for free to everybody. So discernment, not judgment, is the answer to that one, Catherine.
Excellent. So we've got 4 minutes left, so we've got time for one last question. If anyone has one last question, I'll pop it in the chat. Quickly, anybody typing? No, we're all mocked. We're all happy.
Well, you might get a little scroll up. What did we miss anything out?
Did we miss anything?
It's an interesting comment on interiors, which I agree with.
Yeah. Like, interiors aren't my big point. I'll be honest. I'll leave that to Sophie, who's also on the call. She's really good at interiors. We got anything else we've missed?
Mark, sustainability. That's a great question, right? So is it Fabian? I missed there's one from Jenny as well. What is the thing you are most proud of in lockdown? £40 per hour is the rate for visiting lectures at unis. Yeah, I get that, Catherine. I do understand that. Right, so I'll answer a few of those quick questions. Thing I'm proudest of lockdown is my family. We've come together. We've created, I had this side project that a series of talks I ran called Reasons to be Cheerful at the Good Life event in North Wales. And when lockdown started, we all said connection. I miss performance, which is why I do my Qigong every morning. It's just showing off, frankly. And we miss being able to create some kind of community. So we looked at the Reasons to be Cheerful series of talks that were going online, and we went, what can we do around it? And we did more talks, single day events, guest blogs, And we've published a book. This year, we've got 3 newspapers, 2 zines, and 2 books coming out from Reasons to be Cheerful. And I'm so proud. And it's not me. I just stand here going, that's a good idea. It's everybody else. Giving the permission and space to play is the key to really great innovation. I absolutely love that. And what was the other one? There was one about how do I define sustainability? Oh man, we could be here all day on that, right? So, so traditionally we go social, economics, and environmental, and that's probably right, but they play off against each other. If you're doing something that limits the ability of the planet to support what you're doing, or people to carry on doing the thing that you're doing for somebody else, then it's unsustainable. And I have to go as broad as that. There's 2 new ones at the bottom as well now. What's that? Oh, that's just a couple of thank yous. There, bang on time nearly.
Yeah, marvelous. So thank you, Mark. That's been absolutely amazing. Some amazing ideas, and a session that I've really enjoyed. And from the comments we're now getting in the chat, everyone else has really enjoyed. And thank you everyone for staying with it and joining the session. I think we've had almost like 50, 60 people on at one time or another. So that's been absolutely brilliant. So thank you very much, everybody. We have been recording this. It is going to be up on the YouTube channel very soon. We've got another webinar next month on March the 19th with Hannah Gerard, who runs the escape rooms. So she runs an escape room that she set up in Sheffield and Leeds. And she's done some really interesting things. So I'd appreciate if you could join that. That would be fab. Other than that, have a great day, everybody. And thank you so much for your time. And thank you, Mark. Thanks a lot again.
Oh, no, thank you. Genuinely, it's just so nice to connect and see. Like there's names come in appear like jet ski. I just utter joy to see that pop up. And Andrew, I've not seen you for so long, my friend, and it's really good. You're looking boss, deaf, spoke and fly, and it's really, really nice to see your face. Thank you, brother.
Marvelous. Well, thank you very much, guys, and have a fantastic day. And hopefully, I'll speak to some of you very soon. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Thanks, Richard.
No worries. Thanks a lot, Mark.